Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Just a brief note, too. You'll notice in the class sections, the workshop sections, that this first one is about spiritual gifts and understanding. The second one, if you stay a little bit after, which will be at 11:15, then we will talk about spiritual gifts and how to apply them. We'll talk about maybe some real world relating and maybe some individual discussion between us all. But we're starting with the understanding of it, because in all honesty, like Ron said, it's not something that gets talked about a whole ton. And so we'll kind of briefly talk about that. Before we do, I just want to say, hi, I'm David. I work at Goodwill, North Central Wisconsin. I do training for people that would like different forms of social skills and digital skills and such. And I've been there for about 5 years or so. It's something that I definitely enjoy. And before we get going, I would like to know who I'm speaking with, because this isn't necessarily something where it's just me talking. I want this to be interactive. So at the count of 3, I want all of you guys to say your name at the same time. I'll remember all of it. And then 1, 2, 3. Got it. Okay, good to know you guys. All right, let's get going. So to get started, understanding. We're going to start with the Bible verse here, Romans 12:6 through 8. It's where Paul outlines the spiritual gifts God graces each one of us with, that they may humbly serve the body of Christ. So again, what are those spiritual gifts? That's what we'll be talking about. The verse says, having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. If service, in our serving. The one who teaches, in his teaching. The one who exhorts, in his exhortation. The one who contributes in generosity. The one who leads with zeal. The one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. All right? So, question already?
Yeah.
Yes?
Can we possibly, David, just move your computer towards you a little?
Yeah. In fact, I can probably do that. That'd be helpful?
Yeah, I like to, I'll be fine. That's good feedback, thanks.
No, thank you. Is that good?
Yeah.
That's better?
That's
Okay.
fabulous.
All right. I'm just going to reach underneath as soon as I need to. All right. Thank you. And mind you, good reminder, I want this to be a back and forth. Anytime you want to raise your hand and be like, hold on, please do, because I don't want to do all the talking. I get bored of that anyway. Okay. So this session, again, will explore each of the gifts, compare it and contrast them with life callings, manifestations, the spirits, and encourage you to identify and explore your own spiritual gifts. A lot of words there, a lot of words that you maybe know or maybe don't know, so we'll kind of go over each one of them on the next slide here. So, brief opening verse. I really like this one, 1 Peter 4:10. As each one has received a special gift, employ it in serving one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Okay, so here's a big old slide that we're going to spend some time on. And there's a lot of stuff to break down here. I did not write this. This was actually from Mr. Ben Linz, who teaches this class, and I'm just here on his behalf. But so we're going to start with just a brief overview of the gifts, okay? And so when we're talking about gifts, can someone tell me what a gift is? Like, what does a gift mean?
Something that the Lord gave me.
Sure. Yeah, so something that, and I just mean a gift in general, like something that has been given to you, right? Not something that you necessarily created amongst yourself, like you didn't manifest it yourself, it ended up being something that was given to you, right? So that's why we call them gifts, right? This isn't a skill that we necessarily train ourselves in, right? If we're a shop worker, we eventually get really, really good at that. That's a skill that we build. That's fantastic. However, this is a gift. This is something that God gives to us. This is something that we get to use for His glory. So we have prophet, servant, exhorter, teacher, giver, leader, and mercy. We'll go over each one in some next slides, but that's kind of the overview. We have 7 right there. We're going to talk in the next one a little bit more about some of the ministries, maybe some of the equipping roles, maybe how you can use that and equip yourself in it. But right now we're just going to kind of do a high-level understanding of it, and then we'll go to some back and forth and we'll talk about that, okay? We will briefly come back to this slide later on. But ultimately, if you feel like you have a gift right now, do you feel like you're using it? I want to hear some answers. Yeah.
Many years ago, I married the right woman. God brought her into my life, and she's very active in church Sunday school teaching. And then because of that, I got involved in Vacation Bible School. It gravitated into parents groups and things like that, and I just fell in love with it. And so I just felt like it was like, I guess, my gift, my calling. And so now running a men's Bible study and things like that, and just, it comes natural. So when I hear people say, well, I don't want to be a part of a Bible study because I don't know what the Bible is. I said, well, we all don't know what the Bible is.
Sure.
And that's why we get together to learn and feed off each other. So I came to that understanding that I love doing it. So
Awesome. Very good. Anyone else feel like they know their
Music.
Music?
Obviously, I got always known that one was there.
Yeah.
And use it for different purposes, then, became a Christian, use it for God too.
Yeah.
But, and the most recent has been working with kids so like doing mentorship with like Boys and Girls Club and tutoring with the youth groups here at church.
Awesome.
That's been the most recent discovery, which I've always known was there. Then you actually connect with it and do it, it's pretty special.
Yeah. Very cool. So,
I usually, I'm very compassionate. I see somebody at work or whatever, and if they're down, I usually try to pull them over to the side and try to give them an encouragement word and try to lift them up. And I say, if there's something you can't take care of on your own, put it at the foot of the cross. Let the Lord help you with it. Just talk to Him and go for it.
yeah. That's awesome. Very good.
Haven't really been using it at the moment, but for a while I started doing Bible studies online where I was teaching and expounding upon the Word, just going verse by verse through it. And maybe one day, if Lord willing, I'll get back to it.
Awesome. So I really, go ahead.
Everybody hates to do taxes. I'm a volunteer tax preparer.
That's awesome.
When,
Thank you. You are needed. I don't like doing it either.
well, I never saw it as a gift. However, many years back, I turned in my tax return, and I got one of those famous letters from the IRS saying that I had made a mistake and I owed them some more money. And they did their explanation. I looked at their explanation, I went over the numbers, and I found their mistake. And I sent them back, I sent them the check with, I'm paying this in protest because I think you made the mistake. And they agreed and sent me back money. Long story to say, I'm not intimidated by the IRS, but I do believe in honesty.
Yeah.
We have so many folks that really don't have an option to have their taxes done for free. You can pay somebody $100, $200 to have a couple of pages done. But anyways, I now see that as a gift. I never saw it as a gift before. It's just something like, I'm good with numbers.
Yeah. That's really cool, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because I think right now when you talk about the different gifts, and we'll go through kind of each one, I heard a couple of things where it's like, well, taxes or teaching or kids or worship, Bible studies, whatever that looks like. That's all awesome in and of its own right. You could potentially have like any of those gifts and still be employed in those those various skills and those various ways that you can serve. So we're going to go through and understand each one, because some of us kind of know what some of them are, and some of them I think are a little bit new. So we're going to start with prophet. So prophet, not ironically enough, has this symbolic rhino right there. If you know what prophet is, then you probably understand why there's a rhino right there. But this is a messenger, a proclaimer, a provoker. They value passionate following of Christ, what's right, conviction, and repentance. Ultimately, they speak up, challenge, and say it like it is. Okay? So, in a word, I think a bit of like assertiveness into the bluntness category. And ultimately, they are given a gift by God to kind of see things how it are and just say it. And it might tick some people off sometimes. I personally have a couple of people in my life that I believe to be given a gift of being a prophet, and I know that like if I get into a discussion with them, they're probably going to ram it down my throat eventually, but in a loving, eventual way. But in the moment, they're just like they gotta say it up like it is. So when this is right here, does anyone have any thoughts on the prophet, or do you have a prophet in your life, or do you feel like you have some form of Ron?
I'm glad it's not mine to be. I'm
very close friend of mine. He's in a Bible study, and
Yeah.
you know, if you read Jeremiah, he was a prophet. And it doesn't mean you can tell the future
Right.
necessarily. It doesn't mean you can't, but it's more about seeing truth now. And in Jeremiah's day, everybody was saying it's all good, it's all good, it's all good, and God was saying no, it's not. And he was not a popular guy.
Right.
And I feel like this guy is a legitimate prophet, and he's always struggling. Like, when do I say something, and when do I just keep my mouth shut? Because it burns within him when there's something that's even a little bit off on theology, and his thing is, yeah, it's a little bit now, but it's like shooting for the moon 1 degree now. By the time you get there, you're messing. It tends to drift. So I feel like those people tend to feel like this is a burden because I'm correcting people.
Sure.
And I really love his heart because he takes it very seriously. I don't want to tick people off, but I can't shut up and let this go too far where things are just, they're off. They're not really honoring God. And so it's a tough gift.
Yeah, yeah. Any other, yeah, go ahead.
My experience has been just like Jeremiah's day, and you know, even today when you have somebody that speaks the truth,
Right.
you have congregations, whatever denomination,
Yeah.
you have individuals who don't take it and consume it and think about it, right away walls go up,
Yeah.
and they don't like the message. And in reality, they're just speaking the truth,
Yeah.
and we're not looking at it in that respect. And that's why I'm here, is because I want to, all the different facets, so I want to learn how to help promote openness to
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So here's a question. What do you think would happen if God gifted the entire world as prophets? Any thoughts on how cataclysmic that might be? Chaos.
I'm hiding in a tent.
Yeah, exactly. The cool part about God's heart and God's mind in these gifts is that He does truly empower each of us in our own way. And while there are, 7 gifts that we'll talk about, ultimately, each one of us has the ability to use that and be a part of a bigger picture, right? So you're not just one prophet in a family of prophets. You're maybe one prophet, and maybe your mom is an exhorter, and your dad's mercy, and brother, sister, whatever that looks like in your family or your workplace. It can all look a little bit different depending on how people interact. So that's what I love about this right here. Is it a question?
No, just when you're done.
A very large stretch. Okay.
No, it wasn't. I just want to ask something.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, I want. I don't want.
I am literally putting a period at the end of my sentence. Go for it.
Okay. You look really different. from
Really?
what I remember, yeah.
It's the mustache, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, Paul Tadley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even recognize you.
Really?
But-
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. No, it's this. I've only had this for about the last year and a half, so I think some people need to.
No, you look. But one thing I have to say about prophet, because my heart has been there, it is there.
Yeah.
The hard thing is to be a prophet and not do it in arrogance.
Yeah.
And
Classic
I found that
pitfall.
out the hard way.
Yep.
And being humble, serious.
Yeah.
And I have people check me on that almost hourly. And because it can come across as a rhino.
Yeah, honestly.
And that doesn't go over well. So I would say if you have this gift, just check your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, always.
I would have no doubt in my mind that if someone misused this, that they could turn people away from God.
Oh yeah.
Like, in all honesty, like the bluntness, if you go and ask someone that's not a Christian, and they think, well, why don't you like Christians, or why don't this? It's, a lot of times it's just because they think that people are taking the Bible and they're kind of like shoving it down someone's throat. And like that's not God's heart. That's not what He wants in that. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to the next one. Unless there's any more thoughts or. Okay. Next one here, servant. All right, so this one's all about being a helper, a volunteer, an armor bearer, a shield. They value meeting the need, action, reliability. No spotlight. They just want to empower, kind of serve. Jump into to help, get her done, if you will, and a jack of all trades. So a servant. So my girlfriend, for example, is 100% a servant. She will do a lot to serve me and be a giver of sorts or a server of sorts. And it's funny because I feel like I have to like pay her back or like serve her back in a way. But that's just how she knows how to show God through her to me is by serving me and meeting maybe a need when I'm having a rough day, something like that. How many of you think of this gift as being a servant? Any thoughts on do you feel like you serve people a lot, and that's like kind of where your wheelhouse is?
I think that's definitely, I relate to that one a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of, she just said your girlfriend, it's crazy because I'm like, I had the same thing with mine,
Yeah.
Who is, and I was in an unhealthy relationship for a long time, and so trying to pay her back, or even like questioning, is this like what's happening? Oh, it's just like who you are, you're a servant.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yep.
But then in terms of just helping and volunteering, it just comes naturally for me and for servants.
Yeah, yeah. And when
Not
you think,
hard.
right,
If you're a servant.
right. And that's the thing. It's so natural. Each of these gifts are just natural. You don't really have to like twist and turn your body and mind and spirit in order to do this. It just feels like something natural that's inside that you just need to use. You need to show. And ultimately, the speaker in there, I'm sorry, I forget his name. Albert, okay. So when he said, we are the salt of the earth, right? And he used that analogy of the pretzels and people get thirsty. That's something like serving, because that's a pretty obvious one. If someone just keeps like serving you, they're not looking for anything in return. They're like, what? Wait, hold on. What are you trying to do? You're trying to, like, what's up with this? But that's, in all honesty, how they feel equipped in that role to serve others. Any other thoughts on servant? Yeah.
My mother is very much a servant, and it's not, and what she always talks to me about with being a servant, it's not, she doesn't even have to go out of her way to be a servant. God brings the people to her constantly. She could be in a random place and someone with special needs would need help going to the bathroom, or anything just comes up. So God brings those people to her to be served. So you don't even have to go out of your way sometimes. God just brings it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And part of serving sometimes takes a little suggestive, hey, we need your help.
Sure.
Because a lot of people don't want to step out of their comfort zone. And if you just came to ask them and say, hey, you're a plumber and we need some help fixing the facilities.
Yeah.
Could you come and help us on project day? And so we need to pull those servants out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
See, what I gotta work on here, that's the reason why I'm here, is this, I'm a servant, I do a lot, and, I'll be driving down the road, cars broke down, I'll go and find them, immediately turn around and come back and see if that person needs a ride, or if I can make a phone call or help them out,
That's awesome.
I do that, I do a lot for our church and for our community. And with the family, what happened through the years earlier, in my earlier years with the family, I was doing too much of it. And caused conflict, because I was always volunteering to do this, or I gotta go and do this, or sorry kids, I'm committed to this, so there's always too much you can do too, but, and it's hard for me to weigh the two out, I think if you need help, I'm gonna help you.
Yeah.
If you're down there, you're gasping for air, and you're choking on something, I'm gonna do the Heimlich on you, I'm not gonna let you, I'm not gonna walk away,
Yeah. I like that you brought up the idea of family, and because when we think about kind of like how we grew up and how we learned and things like that, I feel like God really does have an idea right away when He creates us, like what He's going to gift us with. And sometimes, like for example, in my life, I grew up not having much of a voice and trying to get my voice out, and I really couldn't. So for me, God's gift, and we'll talk about teacher in a second, but God has gifted me and empowered me in teaching, and I love it, and it's a bit of a salvation of sorts from my childhood when I didn't get a voice.
I just have one question.
Please.
For the servants or the people known as the servants, do you feel that there is servant burn? You get burned out? Or is that, because for what I've seen in the past, I see a lot of volunteer burnout. They basically put volunteers through the ringer and eventually they just burn out.
Sure.
Is it because they're not servants by nature? And
It's possible.
put in that role?
Yeah.
Or, I'm just curious, do servants get burned out?
For me, it gives me drive.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I get excitement out of it. I enjoy doing it. I like talking to people. So it gets me out in the community, gets me talking. And I do things for other organizations just so I can get out there and talk to people.
Yeah.
And I'm a Christian, so my goal is to go out there and I kind of lay the word of God on people. And if they ask for it, I'm there to give it to them.
Yeah.
And
And two, when you talk about, that's just, when we talked initially about it feeling natural or feeling like it just makes sense when you start using it, that's what it's all about. If you feel like you're straining yourself to serve another person and you get that burnout a lot, then it's probably the case that you're just doing the best that you can, but that's not maybe necessarily how you're gifted. And that's okay, because not everyone needs to have all the gifts. It's like each of us is given like one huge soul gift that we get to use, and God gets to use that.
Yeah, kind of along what you were saying, I was thinking like as we're in the gifts, it kind of fuels us more as we're using it correctly.
Absolutely. It energizes you. It's almost like being an extrovert, if you will, and like when you're around people, that energizes you. But if you're an introvert and you're around people, it kind of shuts you down. So in the same way, I feel like if you use your gift in the way that it should be done, like you said, it's energy. You feel powerful almost in a way. It's good.
you got to be able to weigh. I mean, some people will take advantage. If you're an over-server like I am, you get taken advantage of a lot. People walk all over you. They want you to do this for nothing. They want you to do that for nothing. You know you're going to be there. It's hard to say no. I mean, I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about that? Because I retired last year, and people said, you're going to have more offers to do stuff. And it's amazing to think the thing that I'm learning is, it wasn't so much the job that was doing it, it was me doing it for me. And what you said about saying no, that you don't want to disappoint, there's all these subliminal, like, emotion, I don't want to disappoint people, I want to feel good. It's a lot of I in it. And I think that there's a lesson I'm learning, God doesn't want any of us to be burned out.
Right.
And it's okay to say no and put your family first sometimes.
Yeah.
I think to find that balance.
That's
like huge in terms of being burnt out. Like for me personally, like I have sites. I just have people ask me for volunteer things because I'm registered with sites or whatever. And there's a time when I just had to take a step back, honestly, of what I was doing, or how many things I was doing, because at the end of the day, you still have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And your family.
And your family, of course. And if you're so jacked up on serving everyone else and you can't take care of yourself, then you will get burnt out, and it's not what you want.
There's scripture that supports
take away
that.
a couple of them and really okay, I need some time to myself. I can't do this 20 all the time, and
Right. Yeah.
my family.
Yeah.
Because I was getting burnt out, so it can definitely happen.
Yeah.
There's scripture that supports that when Jesus went away to relax. That was his human part.
Yeah.
To get away from the, demands.
Yeah.
So he could have his soul time with the Father. So.
Yeah.
So I've been retired for 2 years now. I'm busier now than I was when I was working. And that's because I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get something out of this, because I just signed up for a class in Green Bay here in another couple of weeks, where it's going to be on spiritual gifts. And I want to go through that class. I want to learn how to say no lightly, what I mean? And not hurt feelings.
Boundaries, that's good.
Boundaries is good. Yeah. All right. In the essence of time, I'm gonna move on to the next one here. Make sure we get all through 7 here. So the next one is teacher. So the researcher, the logician. I don't even know actually how to say that word very well. And the explainer. Values truth, accuracy, information, and understanding. Thorough, corrective, reasoning on the bottom, kind of like some traits. So maybe not too much of a shocker. My gift is in teaching. I really enjoy it. I feel energized by it, and I like the interaction and discussion and going through with everything. So I feel, like we talked about before, I feel energized in it. It feels natural for me to speak. Now that being said, there have been times that sometimes I'm almost like a prophet in a way, like too harsh with how I speak sometimes, right? And so there's a common pitfall for each of these spiritual gifts where I feel are common pitfalls really, and that can be one. But ultimately, you know, I enjoy, and it's crazy because this gift can kind of even come up with just like something as superficial as like football. Like I play fantasy football and I research the heck out of my team, and I do really well every year because of it. But in God's sense, when I'm using it for the right reasons, you know, at work when I'm working at Goodwill and I get to teach others about things, that's a way that He can use that for a very productive and a you know, glory of God reason in that way. Any thoughts on teachers or any teachers in the room? Do you feel like you are a teacher? Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
I think we all are, you know. I mean, we're all teaching our children, you're teaching your friends, you're teaching people that you're talking with every day, and they're learning something from you. You're always planting a seed.
Yeah.
You don't realize you are, but you're always out there doing that, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
one of the benefits about being a teacher is because you're researching or whatever, you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And your faith just gets stronger and stronger because you understand the truth. It's almost a double gift.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I would say one of the cool things is that before when we're teaching, it's like God will speak to us through His Word, and as we're researching, we're digging for like a treasure in His Word.
Yeah.
We're finding more and more that we get to explain it to others. This is it's cool how the process is. You know, just digging and digging more. God will give us more wisdom, I guess.
It's awesome. Yeah. And to briefly touch on, you know, saying that we're all teachers, I agree. I think that we can all teach. I think, like you said, we can all end up being parents. We can all end up teaching someone else how to, you know, put something together, like a lawnmower that you need to fix or whatever. Like, right? We can all do something like that. But I'll say, even though we can all teach, or we can all serve, or we can all just be very blunt, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are gifted in it. Right? And there's a difference between that, right? Because then we're talking about the difference between like a skill and like an earthly, I feel like, talent that we just kind of build, or God's gift where it feels like it could reach the masses, you're that salt of the earth, and it could really bring people to God in a way that those other talents and other skills that you might have can't necessarily do it to that capacity.
I'm a cashier where I work, and so I've been there for doing a cashier job for the last 3-4 months. And some of the younger ones, there was one last night that she says, "John, help!" So I went over by her register. I said, "What's going on?" She says, she wants a gift receipt, but she wants to know after the transaction was done. I said, anything that needs a gift receipt, you have to let them know it has to be done at the beginning. She says, when a customer comes up, if they have clothing or toys, ask them if they want a gift receipt. I'll show you on the screen where it's at, this and that. And she was ever so grateful. She says, "Thanks for helping me." I said, I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, somebody taught me, and I'm teaching others, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Any other thoughts on the teacher before I move on? Yeah.
I think I'd be good into being a great teacher, but does that necessarily have to require X number of years in college?
As far as being a teacher, absolutely not. My degree is not in teaching. My professional background, I didn't start as a trainer and a teacher like I am now. God grew me into that, and by pursuing Him, I feel like we can cultivate that gift. Because there are ways that we can leave it by the wayside, right? So it's not a piece of paper that you get on your wall from college. It is truly your relationship with God. And I feel like when our relationship with God is good, I feel like that gift is going to thrive and be great.
Maybe you'll touch on it later, but what would you say a quick distinction between a gift and a talent is? As you're going through this, it might help me.
Yeah. So I really like to go to the thought that again the gift is what is given to you by God. All right. So when I think about that, that is not something that you can grab and attain. I feel people that are talented, right, that could be in a variety of different things. That talent, someone might have like an inherent talent to be stronger at lifting weights or a little bit more agile running or something like that. But that talent is more so an earthly aspect than like a heavenly spiritual aspect. And I think that we're all talented in a variety of ways, and we can use our gifts and our talents together. But in all honesty, they are separate in God's eyes, right? One we're kind of building through Him. The others we could be talented in a variety of things without necessarily God involved.
Well explained.
Moving on to the next one, exhorter. So the encourager, the connector, the coach, values relationship, dignity, hope, the experience. Ultimately, they like to bring truth to life, add optimistic color, and a friend of many. So when I explain that, I think that these are the people in your life, as you see by the photo there, these are the people that are maybe very talkative, and that's where they really find that relational build. They're very fun and energetic. Probably most exhorters, I would imagine, are extroverts, and you probably have those people in your life. Any thoughts or any people in the room you feel like kind of exhortation is kind of your thing, or whatever that looks like?
Do you have to be a woman?
No. I will say that it's probably harder at times for men, I'm getting the gender roles here, it's probably harder at times for men to exhort. Because in a way, it takes the spotlight off of us, takes the pride off of us, and now we're uplifting someone else, where we want to be the same. I don't know.
I can definitely relate to a lot of those. What does the Bible say about how many gifts you can have? I'm not positive on that.
So, the way that they have the teaching, there are 7 gifts, if you will, right? I believe that there is a main gift that everyone is given that is like by far like your wheelhouse. That's where you feel good. I believe that God can, because He is all powerful and omniscient, can do what He chooses in someone else's life if He's following them to empower in a variety of ways, and to gift for the situation or gift for this and that. I think that there's one main one, but I think that all of us can, like I said, use the other ones in ways, but maybe not in that main wheelhouse, where it feels natural, where it's energizing us and such.
This morning, Alfred Tate, I think, touched on this when he said about don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
You need people in your life that helps you not quit, because we all go through this times I'm done with this.
Right.
Our men's group is doing a study, Don't Give Up,
Mm-hmm.
and it started off with, everybody remembers the movie Braveheart,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And the comparison between Sir William Walter, I can't remember, I remember the name right now,
Yeah.
okay? And Fred Rogers.
Yeah.
They're both encouragers, but different style.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, there's a time in your life you need somebody to kick you in the butt.
Yeah.
And there's other times where you just listen. Fred Rogers was great.
Yeah.
Just listening to people.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are encouragers.
Yeah.
Just get that friendly word. Get a friendly word saying, don't give up, just keep on trying.
Yeah, yeah. Saw some other hands in the back. Yeah.
Does God, if you're exhorted, only put people in your life you need it, they seem to come across this path. I think there's a coincidence in that. If they want the information, and they come walking into your life.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's that sort of which thing it would be.
Well, like the gentleman over here had mentioned about his mom and how people, kind of, God brings people to her to serve. In the same way, I feel like God can bring people to others to exhort and to encourage. And when you're talking about encouraging, I think a lot about like that optimistic and words of affirmation, stuff like that, where like when they give those affirmations, it is just like a fulfilling. You can just tell when that is like your energizer. That is your way that you feel the Spirit moving in you as you encourage. And so I think totally, yeah, that people can be kind of like brought into an exhorter life that maybe need that encouragement, and then it is the choice, ultimately, of the exhorter to exhort. Because again, right, we can use these gifts maybe not for God's glory. We can use these gifts for like not to be the salt of the earth and not to point people. So it's just because you have the gift doesn't mean it's always going to be used correctly. So that's an opportunity every time that someone crosses your path to be encouraged by you, and ultimately through God or with God involved.
Apologies for the inconvenience. The thing you said 2 or 3 minutes ago about the difference between the spiritual gifts and the talent.
Yeah.
Briefly repeat that. I just want to write it down.
Yeah. So when I think about the gift, I always think about our palms being open, God giving us something, all right, and we get to use that for His glory, or we can choose to maybe put it to the side and not use it. Ultimately, His plan for us is to use that gift because He is giving it to us, and He has a reason, and He knows that each of us has those paths in life that it could be very fruitful. The talent more so is, in my mind, an earthly skill of sorts that you can, some people are just a little bit more genetically this than that. That could eventually build into a talent of basketball or football or whatever, or it could be something where someone has the talent that they build over time, like a skill, right? So it's kind of like an earthly skill or something given by God ultimately. Does that make sense?
To some degree.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to giver. So the giver is a value appraiser, multiplier, resource provider. They value wise investments, accruing, longevity, and then they are they like cautious evaluation, and then strategy, whatever they can best use for other people. So the giver, kind of similarly to servant, they're kind of maybe two sides of the same coin in a way, but ultimately, when you think about finances, when you think about someone that is a good steward of what they've been given or what they've been able to earn in their life, and then being able to use those investments, for other people, to give to others, to empower to others, so on and so forth. Any givers in the room, you feel like? Yeah?
Yeah. I took the evaluation a couple years ago. My friend had sent me that they didn't hear at Rock.
Yeah.
I was, both me and my wife are tapping us all into this one. So it's definitely what you said. And before we had the thing up there, giver, it doesn't, to me initially didn't mean the same thing as what you have now.
Sure.
Definitely. That's me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, David,
Yeah.
that sometimes I think we learn best by looking at contrast, and for years, I didn't think I had giving. But then I realized that those things, I have to research something pretty deeply to understand. My wife grew up in a family I don't know if that's really giving because they give extravagant, every time, and I'm like, wow, I'm really cautious. But then I realized after taking that, I'm not going to use numbers or anything. It's I just want to know, is it really legitimate? Because we've got burden in the past. I've had family members with mental illness, and I gave them money and then found them in their apartment on drugs and empty bottles of alcohol. It's just what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so it is a contrast. I think you got to look at your motive too. When you're giving, and you want to be noticed, and it makes you feel good. Although it can feel good when you're in the spirit.
Absolutely.
I think we got to be careful because sometimes we can give more for ourselves and become the other person.
Yeah. And kind of a common pitfall that we talked about with the servant is the servant and the giver, in a way we're talking about contrast, but where they can kind of go hand in hand with a potential issue is not being able to necessarily self-care or care for yourself in a way. So if you serve, give, then where's the time or the money for you in a way? And so sometimes that can be kind of overused, and it can be a negative thing. But ultimately, if you're in the Spirit and you're pursuing God with using what would be your gift, then He empowers it. He really does. He energizes it. Yeah. Any other thoughts on giver?
Same thing again, give too much, you're going to be taken advantage of.
I have one. I think of a person I worked with that was a servant leader. So there was a department with 25 people per shift, 100 total. And over 10 years, they were taught to about housekeeping. 5 different leaders in 10 years. For his 2-year period, they were phenomenal housekeepers. The other 8, they weren't. The difference was he would pick up a piece of paper, he would sweep the floors, he would get a dustpan, he would demonstrate by his actions. And he multiplied their housekeeping ability for like years 7 and 8. And previous to that and after that, they didn't have that talent, so he was a multiplier and he was a servant leader.
That's awesome. Awesome to hear that. So moving on, I want to make sure I'm good on time, and we are really close to the end here. 11 o'clock, right? They're around. Is when we're supposed to be done. 11.
11.
Okay.
These guys need about 10 minutes to get through the next.
Yeah. Okay. So to round out the last couple gifts here, leader is an initiator, a plan maker, a plate spinner, a team builder. They value progress, change, and taking action, and they set direction, create movement, and they orchestrate people well. So the leader, I will say, is so when I first took the gift development class, I actually thought that my gift was in leading. Throughout the time that I took the class, people were very, very, my leader and in the small group that I had, reminded me that we can all lead. We can all lead others. We can all change, take action, all that stuff, right? We can get, but that doesn't mean that we're necessarily gifted in, right? So I was reminded pretty early on when I was taking the class and I was going through things that it's like just because I can lead or I enjoy some of that progress, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's my gift. Does anyone feel like they are like a very natural born leader, like that's their gift, they feel energized, powered by it? And this is one, again, when you go through the class, you end up getting to learn, to kind of find your direction in that. Again, it's just focus on what is when you're close with God, when you're in the Spirit, what is empowering you in that way. Mercy, and I think, mercy, the last one here, the feeler, the healer, the defender. They value the souls of others, alleviating the suffering, and they show empathy. They gravitate towards others that are hurting, absorbs loss and pain, compassionate, and patiently loves. I would say along the same lines, the mercy, in my mind, you can almost see it or feel it. This is one of those gifts that, yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of like, I mean, we're all called to intercede, but maybe sometimes in interceding for a specific situation also you're like weeping for the person.
And I've seen that happen before. I've seen someone just flat out, when someone's telling a story, I've told the story of my life to someone that has mercy, and I just see their face literally get as sad as mine. They're sometimes even crying more than I am, and I'm like, what's going on? A very interesting gift, and again, every body, every family, it's so great to have these different gifts and these different roles that we end up taking. And this is one that if we didn't have a mercy in the room, we'd probably all have a lot of pent-up aggression. The mercy is there to really hear and to feel with you, to be there in that moment when other people may not be able to find the capacity for that.
I had a situation just last week. One of my coworkers her boyfriend decided to cheat. She didn't know who to turn to. She came to my table where I was sitting lunch. She says, "Can I confide in you?" I said, "Sure." She told me what was going on. I says, "Trust in your true friends. Friends that you feel right is in your heart." She says, "You want to talk to me about anything, anytime, I'm there for you." You know, I know the guy, and the last word up on the top one, defender, I like to just go box his ears and just say, "What are you doing? She's a beautiful woman, and you're doing that to her." So,
yeah. At the end of the day, when we're going through all of these, just to kind of wrap it up, we are better together, right? I keep mentioning this, that we are all equipped, we are all given a gift, and so this whole first session, what we're talking about now, just kind of the understanding. If you ended up staying, or if you're staying for the second session, we'll kind of talk more about the equipping part and maybe what that looks personally in each of your lives, or the lives of others in your life. But ultimately, I do not teach this class. I am just a teacher that has gone through it and kind of using my gift in this way. So if you are interested in learning more, if you are interested in going through the actual gift development class, please contact Ben Lenz. All right, this is the guy that actually taught me, and he can teach you as well and kind of have those discussions about how God has gifted you and empowered you in your life. All right, so that you have an email up there, a Gmail, and then also the website at the bottom, navigatemygift.com. Any questions before we close out?
Is it just, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, I better.
Oh, does it have just as much to do with recognizing and promoting the gifts in others to help them?
That absolutely could. I feel like when there's knowledge, right? Because Ben just didn't always have this knowledge, and all of a sudden he empowered me, right? I went through the class, we went through discussion, and we worked together. And so I think that absolutely, yeah, you can end up having knowledge to have those discussions with other people, and then point them to resources, right, to learn for themselves. Absolutely, yeah.
on that website, Navigate My Gifts, does it, bless you, does it give you, like, prophet, servant, teacher, whatever, does it give you details, explanations of what they are?
Great question. I actually have no idea, so I'm not going to act like I do. But if you go to the website, just double check. What I know is that all of the aspects of the class, details, how to get involved, contact Ben, and he'll point you in the right direction. Sound good? Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for having the discussion. Have a good rest of the day.
Could you put on that slide, that big information slide at the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about it in a second when you're sticking around. Yes, please.